Oh, what's the big surprise that makes this different from any reading of all time, if not ever? True. How did technology ruin the suspense novel? And what can we do about it? Let's see. How come we don't get to ask any questions? Let's leave it at those. So yes.
Was the person with the rifle or the gun actually Harry from the retirement home?
Sir. Hold on. Actually, let me check. Yes, but the answer is no. And you know what? That's actually a good question now that I think about it, because I skipped some stuff. So, but yeah, Harry is much older and not that mobile anymore.
That's why he missed.
Yes.
How did technology, what did you say, ruin the
suspense novel? Okay, who wants a shot at this?
Ruin the suspense
and Allie,
novel.
you can't answer because you are. Yeah. Allie's my groupie. She's been to 3 of these. You will get cash money. Essentially, one of the things that we always did in suspense novels is people couldn't get a hold of each other, and it created an enormous amount of suspense. You can no longer get away with that, and I often see writers try to do it, and it starts to feel very artificial, because basically you say, would you just text the person? So you cannot create distance between people. And a story I told that a few of you know is a good friend of mine was the head writer for the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which was a TV show on Fox, and he wanted to isolate Sarah, who's the mother in this story, and he put her in the desert. But even there, they realized it defied credibility that she couldn't just get on the cell phone. And so they blew up the cell phone tower in the middle of the desert. So it's actually, in as much as technology's provided great fodder for thrillers, I remember, I think it was Douglas Preston or someone else telling me a few years ago that he sent this woman into an alley, and she was running from the police, and he realized, or running from a bad guy, he realized she has a cell phone on her. I have to rewrite this entire plot and get this out of her hands, and she had the cell phone for good reason, so it's created some issues. Okay, what else? Yours or mine? Would you guys like to want to hear the sentence I hate? I mean, you guys at least have to choose. I'm giving you questions. Let me. Yeah. Okay.
When you started the book, did you know how it was going to end?
Not the slightest idea.
Wow.
So my first book took me 5 months, and I also did not know how it would end, but I was completely consumed by it, and I got very lucky. In this book, I hit something of a sophomore slump, in that I hear happen to a lot of people, in that I loved the writing process. And for those of you who write and know how pleasurable it can be, also know sometimes it can be very painful. So I kept writing to page 100 and realizing I had asked a lot of questions, or raised a lot of issues I couldn't solve. And because I liked the process, I just kept writing to page 100 again, not knowing if I would ever have a book. And it so happened that I was in a friend of mine named David List. Do some of you guys know David? His stories, A Conspiracy of Paper. He's truly a great writer, and he was in town, and he was at a book. He was coming for his own book reading, and I went to visit him at his hotel. So we're sitting on the couch in the lobby of his hotel, and I told him the plot, which is essentially what you guys hear now. And I said, but I can't finish it. And he said, have you thought about trying this with the antagonist? It was a single sentence, and 5 months later the book was written. So sometimes, again, for those of you who write, sometimes you just punch your way out of the paper bag and keep punching and punching, and eventually you find your way out. It's the same for me sometimes with nonfiction, especially when I'm doing these longer projects. I talk them through and talk them through. I have some colleagues here who know it's part of how I reach that conclusion. But let me read you the sentence that I hate, and then maybe you guys can guess why I hate it. This was right at the end. It said, I might be nuts, but maybe I can get a good look at the shooter and play hero with a police department that doesn't much like me these days. Anyone want to take a shot at it? School? Not so much.
I remember that one.
So, the reason I like the thriller genre because it's really fun for me to write, and I get caught up in the story, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm hoping that I'm writing something that you're enjoying as much as I'm enjoying writing it. I'm also trying to create an emotionally resonant story. I'm trying to create relationships at the core that sometimes you don't see in thrillers, but I find that the thrillers I really like you do. In order to create emotional resonance, you want to show and not tell.
Right.
But in thrillers, to make things move quickly, a lot of times you see these basic tropes written, like, I don't get along with the police department, I haven't been sober in 6 months, I've been, you know, my wife and I are on the edge, or whatever it is. But those things are often expressed as tells and not shows, and the reason is because you're trying to speed the reader along and keep the action going. Insofar as it's possible, I would rather show and not tell. And the first time I read that sentence at a book reading in LA, when I heard it aloud a couple weeks ago, I just wanted to sit down and weep. Because I had really so nakedly engaged in a cliche that I would like to leave out. So, there you go.